Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. This is a special Sports Exchange here in the Dr. Martin Luther King holiday. This Sports Exchange will be titled Stafford versus Goff, the verdict. Yes, you know that the Arizona Cardinals are facing the LA Rams in Los Angeles. And I want to introduce my crew tonight. We have Mel Farr Jr. Welcome back, Mel.
Great to be back.
And Rick Curti.
Hey, guys. How are you?
And Steve Balestrieri.
To be here, hope I can help the ball club.
Oh, I'm sure you're going to be fine. I have no doubt about it. So let me prepare everybody for what we have lined up here. We're going to be talking a lot about Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, a lot of particulars of the trade between the Lions and the Rams. And there's a lot of interesting information. Before I do, one of the things I want to do is just so you know, if you want to find our broadcast, okay, you can do so on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and please subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. And you can also find these broadcasts wherever you get your podcasts or on the website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Want to get that out there early and so that you can keep track of us and get updates as we go along. I do want to point out the significance of this Dr. Martin Luther King holiday to show you how really important it is. There's an interesting irony when we talk about the cities of Los Angeles and the metropolitan Phoenix area. The Dr. Martin Luther King holiday, because of that holiday, the Phoenix metropolitan area lost the Super Bowl and they ended up getting one back when the holiday was not a paid holiday for the folks in Arizona. Just to show you how impactful and powerful the NFL is, the area lost between $200 and $250 million in revenue. And in 1992, the holiday was placed on the ballot and it was approved with a 62% margin. And the Super Bowl was played over at Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, Arizona. The one that was moved obviously went over to the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. So there's just to show the irony is the fact that these two teams are playing here on this particular holiday. With that said, okay, we're talking about the NFL Divisional Playoffs between the Cardinals and the Rams. But before we go ahead and get into that a little bit, I'll give you some information off the bat. On March 18th, 2021, the Detroit Lions acquired Jared Goff and a first-round pick in both 2022 and 23, and a 2021 third-round pick for Matthew Stafford. At that time, I thought the Lions and the Rams could have made a flat trade between the two quarterbacks because it became apparent that Stafford was going to get out, so why not get another starting quarterback in return? Well, because Brad Holmes was such a shrewd operator to work with the Rams, he knew that Sean McVay and GM Les Snead were capable of giving, they don't think much of draft capital, so the Lions were able to get those three picks along with a starting quarterback and what I consider a salary dump. Now, these two teams faced each other on October 24th, 2021 in LA. The Rams won that game 28-19. Goff went 22 of 36 for 268 yards, a touchdown, did throw two interceptions. Matthew Stafford went 28 of 41 for 334 yards, three touchdowns, no interceptions, clean game for there. Now, I want to go a little bit further as the Lions continue to struggle throughout the year, okay? The irony tonight is the Detroit Lions defeated the Arizona Cardinals on December 19th in Detroit by a 30-12 margin. Goff had a very nice game there, 21 of 26 for 216 yards, three touchdowns, no interceptions against Kyler Murray, who will be playing in tonight's game. Stafford, meanwhile, is 1-1 against Murray this year. Now, let's take this thing back a little bit further, okay, to show you how far these organizations really are. First of all, one of the most compelling things about Jared Goff is when they won their first game against the Minnesota Vikings it was December the 5th, 2021. Christian Harper, Steve, why don't you set the story on this one? You do a little bit better. Celebrated the first win by doing a photo shoot in the Caribbean. Take it from there, Steve.
Yeah, as the Lions were winning the game, she was in somewhere in the Caribbean. I think it was Jamaica, but I have to double check that. But she was doing the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue photo shoot. And some of the crew members that are there were following the game online, and then they showed it to her just as Goff threw the touchdown at the end of the game for the Lions to get off the Schneiding when their, first game of the season. And her celebration was pretty animated, and it was worthy of the swimsuit issue in itself.
Okay, well, if I had to take a page out of Nick Bakay, Tail the Tape, okay, and let's have a little bit of fun with this. Who do you have, Christian Harper, Goff's girlfriend, or Kelly Stafford, Matt Stafford's wife, blonde, very adorable, has 4 kids. Who do you have, Steve? Which one do you think is more adorable than the other?
Well, I'm going to have to whisper this because my wife is within hearing range. So I think I'd have to go with Harper.
Okay, and what about you, Rick? You haven't seen it, so we'll probably
I
have to defer.
I haven't seen it, but I'm sure they're both very, very attractive and both very, very nice.
And Mel, do you have an opinion on this at all? He
Not
doesn't
at
have an
all.
opinion. So you have
Yeah.
an opinion, so
I'm
I'll
sure-
give a nod to Christian Harper. She
I'm
is
sure
absolutely
I'm sure they're
adorable.
all very nice looking, and why shouldn't they be?
She's
Yeah, I mean, they're
adorable.
rich quarterbacks, good looking, rich quarterbacks. Of course, they're gonna have beautiful wives.
Well, as they always say, depends on your taste. If you like blondes, you give the nod to Kelly Stafford. And if you just love adorable women and young and a model like Christian Harper, I'm going to give it to Kristen Harper and be done with it. So with that said,
Well, her celebration was, that was cool.
yeah, it was
And
good. And the Lions not winning certainly added to the celebration. Like, wow, winning is a luxury, for God's sakes. I mean, really? So yeah, it was definitely a moment that you can certainly appreciate what it is. So now we'll talk about the topic at hand, okay? And that's Matthew Stafford is 0-3 in the playoffs. And unfortunately, he should have been 1-2 because they had a bad break on January 4th, 2015. But that pass interference call that was reversed in the wild card round against the Dallas Cowboys, for which Dallas ended up winning 24-20. I think he should be 1-2, not 0-3, but the record states otherwise. Stafford is still looking for that first playoff win. Goff happens to have playoff wins in his pocket. He lost to New England 13-3 on February 13th, 2019. In Atlanta, you know about that all too well. So here we go. So, some thoughts here, Steve, as we compare and contrast these two quarterbacks.
well, I think, in the short term, I think the Rams got a much better deal here. I mean, Matthew Stafford, I think, is a much better quarterback than Jared Goff. We've talked about this on this show more than once. I think he's a much better quarterback. He's surrounded with a team that's, built to win right now. So the pressure's on him going into the playoffs because a lot of people expect them to go deep into the playoffs and possibly end up in the Super Bowl. So, I think in the short term, the Rams definitely got the better of this, but those 2 first-round draft picks, and a third, I mean, in the end, the Lions could be smiling about this because Goff isn't a bad quarterback. I don't think he's a bad quarterback. I just don't think he's a great one. So, in the long term, with those 2-round picks in the third, first-round picks in the third, the Lions could end up the winners in this. So, it's time will tell. But I think, ultimately, when people look at this trade, a lot of it's going to be judged on what happens this year, because the Rams have made so many moves to win right now that anything short of that, I think, is going to be a disappointment.
Well, I think a lot of it will have to do with tonight's game, and we'll get to that shortly, okay? Because it is a win now type of situation. So with that said, okay, Rick, chime in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the Rams got the better end. To say, Stafford's a better. I mean, Goff he's not a good quarterback. I'm sorry, he's just not that good of a quarterback. Stafford's a great quarterback. He's an underrated quarterback. He's an underappreciated quarterback. He threw for over 4,800 yards, 41 touchdowns, only second to Tom Brady. Not one human being's mentioned him for MVP. it's just all Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady. That's all you hear about. And but now he's got all that talent surrounded with him, and he needs to win because at Detroit, it was Detroit. You know, they just had this black cloud over them for so many years and just could not produce. But I agree with you with the that was a catch by Calvin Johnson. I'm sorry, it was a catch, so he should have a playoff win. But right now, to me, it's Stafford and the Rams got the better part. But like Steve said, those first round picks, it could be the next Herschel Walker. You know, when the Cowboys got rid of Herschel Walker and Cowboys got all those picks, and look what happened. And so, could something like that happen? Maybe. I don't know. But right now, clearly, the Rams got the better end of this deal right now.
All right, Mel, what's your take on it?
You're asking who got the better end of the trade?
Yeah, I mean, right now, if you're looking at the Lions or the Rams, give me your observation.
I would say that the Lions got the better end of that deal. I know Rick is real high on Matthew Stafford. I've had the pleasure of being down here in Georgia, so I've obviously heard a lot about Matthew Stafford being down here. I was never really that high on him. I think if you're the number one overall pick as a quarterback, you should, first of all, in college, I believe they should have done a lot more with him. They lost a few games. They didn't win the national championship while he was here. They lost a few games that they should have won. That would have put him in the national championship picture, but they weren't able to get it done. I don't have anything against Matthew Stafford personally, but I just don't see him as the type of leader. I don't see him as an alpha personality, kind of like what Joe Burrow did when he went down to LSU. He changed the culture there. Kind of like what Mac Jones did when he was at Alabama last year. I mean, Mac Jones was the guy. He was the alpha male there. I never saw that out of Matthew Stafford. The guy's never been voted to a Pro Bowl. Jared Goff has been voted to one. Jared Goff, I think, I've never been high on Jared Goff either now. Don't get me wrong, because he came from Cal, and all of a sudden his draft stock went up through the roof, and I could understand how his draft stock went up through the roof, and the guy wasn't a winner at Cal. I mean, I look at that. That matters to me. Peyton Manning was a winner at Tennessee. That's why I believe he had a successful career in the NFL. I looked at Ryan Leaf. I didn't believe that he was a winner at Washington State. I believe that's where he went to school. That's why I always said I would have taken Peyton Manning over Ryan Leaf. Ryan Leaf was kind of a flash in the pan kind of guy, where Peyton Manning had done it over 4 years. He stayed in school, came back that extra year, and he had did it over 4 years. So I'm gonna take the guy. I'm gonna take what my lion eyes tell me. He's the better prospect. So with these two guys, Matthew Stafford, I think right now, I think the Rams are having buyer's remorse. And if they lose today, they will definitely have buyer's remorse. They have mortgaged their future on some of the people that they brought over there, particularly bringing over Stafford, where they gave up a number one overall pick. I believe Jared Goff was the number one overall pick. They gave up first round, 2 first rounders and a third rounder. I mean, they're mortgaging their future. Jalen Ramsey, they gave up a whole bunch for him. They didn't give up a whole lot for Von Miller, I don't believe, but they still gave up some draft capital. So, if they don't win today, I mean, there's a lot of pressure on the Rams today. There's a lot of pressure on Stafford. There's a lot of pressure on McVay, all those guys, because of the fact that what they gave up to give now. The Lions could move off of Jared Goff. I mean, none of that money is guaranteed that's left on his contract. So they could move off of him if they want to. But I believe if you get the guy was a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. I mean, he was voted to the Pro Bowl 1 year. You put him in the right type of system. Don't ask him to do a whole lot, kind of like Ryan Tannehill. If you can just get him to be Ryan Tannehill, that's a win. That's a bonus. Now you can spend your money and your resources and your draft capital just building around the guy and getting the things that he needs that's going to help and what your team needs that's going to help you guys get to where you want to go. If you end up starting all over with a quarterback, then you got a couple of years for the guy to learn. Who's out there right now? There's no Aaron Rodgers. I don't see in the pipeline, or Tom Brady's in the pipeline. Drew Brees. There's none of those kind of guys in the pipeline. So, you just got to kind of dance with the girl that you brought.
Well, amazingly enough, you make a lot of interesting points, Mel. Let me backtrack on your Jacksonville. Okay, Les Snead and Sean McVay don't think much of draft choices anyway, so they would rather go with the established players. And the Rams' track record indicates such that they don't mind shifting their draft capital. So that's a good point right there. Number two, okay, again, short-term versus long-term. is important. I remember many years ago when I covered the baseball winter meetings in Hollywood, the first one back in 1981, I was asking baseball executives, how do you judge a trade? Immediate effects, midterm, long term. So this is where that trade fits in. Jared Goff came into Detroit very loose. Okay. He wanted a fresh start, ended up getting a fresh start when he accepted the trade. There's no pressure on him anymore. The general manager knows who he was because he went out and acquired him on his own. Right. So therefore, I hate to use the word house money, but I am going to a little bit, because when Jared Goff came into the season, the Lions were stripped bare. So everybody knew it would be a bad year anyway. So Jared, we're asking you to tough it out this year, do the best you can with what you're not going to have to work with. They weren't retaining any experienced receivers anyways. And if you survive the year, maybe with a little bit of cap room and some more draft capital, we might be able to surround you with better players. Sean McVay and Les Snead didn't want him. So Dan Campbell obviously wanted him, and so did Brad Holmes. And as a result, okay, now I look at Jared Goff, if you give him an opportunity next year with a halfway decent team, that if they won 3 wins, okay, with the team they had, there's no reason to think you can't see improvement up between 7 and 9 win territory in a place where he's wanted. So, but yet, meanwhile, if Matthew Stafford has to get them to, well, first of all, winning playoff game number 1 would certainly help, but the path doesn't get any easier as we go deeper into the playoffs, because you have Tampa and Green Bay lingering on, but we're not going to talk about that now. Again, the whole focus on the broadcast is Stafford versus Goff, the verdict. And right now, short term could be Stafford if they go deep into the playoffs. Anything short of that, then I think it'd be a problem. But I actually like the Lions in this one too, because you have a starting quarterback for a starting quarterback, and then you get draft capital. So I'm with you all the way on it. I agree. But I really like Goff. I think he's ideal for what the Lions are looking for. And if the Lions are going to look for any kind of a quarterback, what they need is a backup quarterback, because they haven't gotten any wins out of that backup quarterback situation in ages, when their starting guy goes out. But I don't want to take the focus on that. But I'm going to favor the Lions on that one, if for no other reason, draft capital. So with that said, let's put Matthew Stafford under the microscope and look at his numbers. Okay. 2021, 4,886 yards, 41 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. And the Rams were 6-5 in games for which he threw an interception. And in the final 3 games, they had 7 interceptions versus 1 fumble. And the Cardinals entered tonight's game. They're 3-5 at home and 8-1 on the road. The Rams started 7-1 and they currently stand at 12-5. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are 10-2 and they finished 11-6. I know I threw a lot of numbers at you. I want to get the numbers out here. If for no other reason, you can evaluate the analytics part of the whole numbers. So let's, Mel Farr, put Matthew Stafford under the under the microscope, excuse me. Okay. Based on the numbers that we have right here, right now. Okay. Go from there.
He's been up and down. He throws a lot of interceptions. This year, that the year you were talking about, he threw about the same amount of, the year that he had the one great year that we're talking about, where he threw for 5,000 yards, whatever the case, his touchdown to interception ratio was pretty much the same. The guy's going to throw a lot of interceptions. Now, whether he's going to throw touchdowns to the other team, that's going to be the big thing. He's had 4 pick-six this year.
Right.
That's huge. That takes the wind out your sails when you throw a touchdown to the other team like that. So that's going to be, his numbers, he's always had good numbers, he's always had decent numbers, but he just hasn't been able to help the franchise win. Peyton Manning didn't go to a great franchise in Indianapolis when he went to Indianapolis, but he turned that program into a winner. Tampa Bay wasn't all that great when Tom Brady went there, but Tom Brady saw there's some pieces there that, hey, with the pieces that are down there, I think I can turn this franchise into a pretty good franchise. And he did it. All the pieces were in place for Matthew Stafford. All he had to do was come in there and just deal. And I don't see the improvement that I don't think Sean McVay sees the improvement that he thought he would see. Matthew Stafford still makes a lot of boneheaded throws, makes a lot of mistakes. He's not cool, calm, and collected in the pocket like Aaron Rodgers. Heck, nobody is. He's not in the pocket like Tom Brady. There's, those two are in a league and a class of their own. And Matthew Stafford's not there. He's not that guy. So again, there's a lot of, how is he going to play with this kind of pressure on him? I mean, one thing we can say about Jared Goff is he has won some playoff games. I mean, he got to the Super Bowl. He got to the Super Bowl. He got to the big show. Matthew Stafford hasn't done that yet. So how, the lights are real bright right now. The focus, and everybody knows what the Rams gave up for Matthew Stafford. Everybody by now knows the story about how it all happened down in Mexico in the hot tub and all that other stuff. So that they were, they had little man crushes on each other or whatever. And, the deal went down. Everybody knows about all that now. Now he's got to go out there and play. And we're going to see what happens today. See if he can stand those bright lights.
Yeah, you make an interesting point, and I think we can all agree on it, is the ability to elevate your franchise to the next level is what we're going to find out in the next few hours. And you mentioned some great names there, Mel. By all means, Tom Brady elevated the Bucs. Peyton Manning did the same, and I'm sure Rodgers. And when you're talking about elite and elevate, those are the two key E's, right, Curti?
But you're talking about three great quarterbacks of all time, and we've never said, or I've never said, that Matthew Stafford was in the class of a Tom Brady.
He said he's a Hall of Famer.
He should be in the Hall of Fame. I just can't believe he's never been in a Pro. He's only been in one Pro Bowl, but that's another topic for another story. I like Matthew Stafford. I've always liked them. You're talking about the Lions franchise. I mean, really, they've been one of the worst franchises forever. When he was the number one pick, he went to a team that had 0 wins, 16 losses. And
he could have done like John Elway, refused to go.
Yeah, but he didn't. And he went there. He had a good career there with the Lions. You gotta remember, this is the Lions that he went with. It wasn't the 72 Dolphins. He didn't have a loaded team. They were horrid. And the playoff wins that he went to, he should have won one with that catch. We'll see what happens. There's just not a lot on Stafford right now because he was with a really bad team, and right now, if he doesn't win, it was a bad trade and he didn't do good, and I'll give you all that. But right now, with Goff, I mean, remember the Rams went to the Super Bowl with that defense. It wasn't because Goff was sensational. McVay made him a better player. I mean, he was terrible. And I'm not a Goff fan. I have nothing against Goff. I just see Blaine Gabbert with him. That's me with Goff. He's just another Blaine Gabbert to me. So, and I don't even think he's a franchise quarterback for the Lions. I don't know. He'll be back next season. After that, I don't see him as a franchise quarterback, and neither did Sean McVay, and that's why they got rid of him. And two, they had remorse signing him to that big long contract extension. So we'll see what happens with Stafford. And if he doesn't play good, I tip my hat off to you. Yeah, he choked. He did bad. And they went all in. They pushed all the chips in to get Stafford, to get Beckham, to get all these players. And we'll see what happens. But I like Stafford. I think he'll do great. I think he'll have a great game. And we'll just have to see what happens tonight.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Odell Beckham. Here's a guy that everybody thought was malcontent in Cleveland. You throw him over with the Rams. Matthew Stafford will find you if you're open. So obviously you haven't heard a peep out of Odell. All right, Steve, take it away.
Well, and I've been a Stafford supporter, since he's come into the league. I think he's very, very talented. But Mel does bring up a point, and it's very valid. The fact that he makes a lot of mistakes. Now, was that because, he was always playing from behind and you're trying to force things at the end of games? I mean, I didn't watch enough Lions games to definitively say yes or no. But he does have that habit of trying to force things, especially, late in football games. And it showed up this year. I mean, a couple of times near the end of the season. So, again, that's why I think this playoff season is big. They're not looking at next year. They're looking at right now. And I think the pressure's all on him That team is built around him to win right now. And we're going to see how he reacts to it. I have a good feeling about tonight's game. We'll get into that. But after tonight's game, I don't know. I have my doubts about this whole Rams team. So this ought to be interesting.
Do I get the feeling that you're trying to set us up for another show, Steve Balestrieri, that the before and after show? Because if you do, and you sell me on the idea, we might put together another recording about it before and after. So I don't know.
I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just giving you my 2 cents, and that's all it's worth is 2 cents. But I just have my doubts about this Rams team. You know, when teams put together quote unquote dream teams,
Right.
They're collecting talent, not building a football team. And you have to get guys that gel together. And I think the Rams have extreme amount of talent, but are they a great football team? I have my doubts. And now we're going to find out if they are or they're not.
Well, we'll just call that a great segue or a teaser if we decide to do one, but we won't be able to make that decision because it could be made for us tonight or not. We don't know. We'll just leave it out there and let everybody run with it. But yeah, I agree with all you guys. It's really one of those nights where, and I wonder why Stafford went to Detroit. Well, Bobby Lane, once upon a time, came from that part of Texas. They went to the same high school. So he figured, well, Bobby Lane won from that high school in Texas. Why not try Matthew Stafford? And I will tell you this, Jim Schwartz had a tough job when he inherited an 0-16 mess from Rod Marinelli. So and because that was as big a message you could probably get, but that's for another day. But basically what it comes down to, Matt Stafford, okay, tonight there won't be any excuses. So I'm going to take a page out of Lee Corso's hat, okay, and I'm going to switch my Lions cap to my Rams cap, okay?
Wow.
Yes, I'm going to do that. Lee Corso, not only knows if you're ever going to see this broadcast anyways, I don't normally get an opportunity to do this. So I'm going to go with the Rams tonight in a 28-24 win over at Sci-Fi Stadium on Martin Luther King Day. I'm giving my prediction. Melfar, take it away.
You're right about, they're kind of, they got a lot of guns for hire with the Rams. And, there's something to be said about building a team organically. You look at the Lakers are having the same problem. They got all these old guys in there now. They got rid of all the young guys. Young guys are off other places doing well. And you look at Golden State. They built it organically through the draft. Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. And then you just put the pieces in around them. They got an Andre Iguodala. They brought him in. They build it organically. There's something to be said about building your team organically as opposed to just going out there and just trying to buy a championship. So I'm gonna go with the Cardinals in this one here. I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I'm gonna say that Stafford is I don't think he's gonna do well under the pressure. The light's gonna be too bright for him. He's not used to being in this type of situation. I think that Kyler, he's probably healthy now, fully recovered from that injury. So I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I like their defense. I like the way they've been playing, and I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. I'm gonna say 24-17.
All right, Rick.
I have the Rams. I think Stafford will have a good game. I think he's been waiting for this moment. I really do. I think he's been waiting for this time. He's been in Detroit, getting unappreciated. You throw for 5,000 yards, 45 touchdowns when you make a Pro Bowl. That's insane to me. So I have the Rams winning this 28-17, and I expect a big game from Stafford.
All right, Steve, that leaves you.
Yeah, I think, earlier this season, I had the Cardinals going all the way. I thought that was a team that was just looking like a Super Bowl team. But, they kind of stumbled a little bit, and I'm not so sure they're fully recovered yet. I'm going to go with the Rams in this one and a nail biter, 31-28.
So you see a lot.
I think it's going to be a little high scoring tonight.
Yeah, I don't think I was too far off. What did I say, 28-24? So I see some points. Right now the tail of the tape is they face each other twice, 1-on-1. So we'll see the rubber game of the match. But that said, there you have it, folks. Stafford versus Goff, the verdict. No, we're not talking about I can't help it. Kristen Harper versus Kelly Stafford. That's another episode. For another
Candy's
day.
in the other room. Be
Yeah,
careful.
right, exactly. But Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff. We hope we've given you the statistical part of it and the trade and way we've tried to weigh it all down in terms of the team that wants to win now versus the one that's winning for the future. And I'm sure that there'll be a lot of chapters unfolded here. So this is a special edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by Mel Farr Jr., Rick Curti, and Steve Balestrieri. With that said, okay, Mel, coming on an extra time during the week gives you an opportunity to promote an event that's coming up very shortly, isn't it, Mel?
Well,
Or
it
is it?
was, but I think we're going to cancel it this year because what they scheduled it during the dead week for Division II schools, and they can't have any contact with players at that particular time. But anyway, I can be reached on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr. That's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I can be reached at Mel Farr Jr. And my email address, melfarjr@gmail.com. And then you can follow what we have going on at melfar.org.
All right, so when that event should get rescheduled, let us know. We'll put it back out there for you. Go ahead, Rick.
You can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. My email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook at Charlotte MLB, also on Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti.
And Rick does a fine job helping us in our social media department with South Florida Tribune. We can't take enough for what you go out there to do. And Mr. Balestrieri, again, we don't want to sit here and talk about what happened on Saturday night because it wasn't good.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah, I think we, well, if we had more time, we should. I mean, all hats off to Josh Allen. I mean, you talk about what a game he had. And I wasn't happy to see it, as being a Patriots fan, but yeah, that's when a game like that, you have to tip your hat to the guy. He was unstoppable.
That was good. All right, with that said, let everybody know how they get a hold of you, Steve.
Yeah, in fact, yeah, Rick, I wasn't paying attention. It was like 4:00 in the morning on Twitter, and I'm like, Charlotte Bats followed me on Twitter. Who's Charlotte Bats? And I had to
That's
do
me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I followed you back. But
Thank you.
you can find me on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. I write for PatsFans.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all that other cool stuff. I also am a national security columnist for 1945.com.
And last but not least, us. All right, I'll recap what I mentioned at the top of the broadcast. You will want to follow us and look at all our shows. These shows are simulcast. And I repeat, simulcast. You can find them on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also subscribe to our South Florida YouTube channel as well. We have a lot of sports and non-sports related content. More importantly, you can find them on the website, www.southfloridatribune.com. And you can follow us on Twitter at Tribune South. Special kudos to Candy Ebling, who does an unbelievable job the way she works on the website, and more importantly, the way she is able to get the broadcast up in a timely way. So meanwhile, we'll find out whether Matt Stafford can go ahead and get that big gorilla off his back, because that's exactly what it is. I'm pulling for you, Matt. But now, unfortunately, the whole reality is, Matt, no excuses. You have the talent in front of you. We'll see if you can deliver, and we're going to find out in a matter of hours. So on behalf of Mel Farr Jr., Rick Curti, Steve Balestrieri, my name is Scott Morganroth from Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange, and we will catch you the next time. Take care, everybody, and hope. And once again, kudos to you, Dr. Martin Luther King. You know, you've certainly, your efforts have certainly made us aware of how important civil rights is in the United States. So God bless Dr. King, and continue to rest in peace. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.